Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mengs and I welcome you guys back to Let's Play Stuff of Ages 0% Growths. It's time to jump into Chapter 8, which is story-wise where Belle meets up with Owen and Sawyer. And by far, this is the most difficult challenge I've yet had to do so far in the 0% Growths run. It took me an entire day to figure out the strat for this map. It is really fucking hard. It starts off with Belle and her squad alone, surrounded on all sides. Things are looking pretty darn bleak. But don't worry, it won't stay that way for long. Now, initially, it looks like Belle is sort of abandoning her friends here to fly over the mountains. This will make sense in a moment. But she leaves Una and Charles to deal with the incoming guys. Charles easily deals with the Pegasus Knights, and Una slaughters anyone that dare approach them from the wests pretty easily. There's a chance she might not one-run these Pegasus Knights if they spawn with 21 health and too much resistance, but in most cases, she does just fine against them. Now, funnily enough, most of these enemies, they will attack us, but then it's actually going to get rather quiet, because it looks very bleak, but most of these enemies are actually stationary, so you aren't actually in a massive pickle. It just looks that way from the beginning. But we will get some help right here. Sawyer and Owen just showed up. They're sort of the cavalry charging in to protect Belle here. But before we move those guys around, we have to deal with the remaining enemies here. Luckily, we got enough units to deal with them, especially if we lure them in on enemy face and leave them on low health. Charles pops a vulnerary because he's going to be doing something very important very soon. Just you guys wait. So Una also needs to finish off all these guys, which he can do pretty easily, no problem. Belle, on the other hand, just ditched her allies to go shopping. She brought a red gem over the mountains, and she's going to pick up two very important items. First one is an iron longbow, the second is a steel axe. The iron longbow has 2-4 range, only 10 attacks, and it's pretty expensive, but it's really darn good. Now, meanwhile, Sawyer and Owen need to set up a formation that won't get them killed on turn 2. This took me a lot of time to figure out. It looks initially very passive, but I have to do it this way because all of the enemies combined can kill any one of my guys if they focus them. So I had to set up this sort of like half triangle, half box formation. It'll make sense very soon, don't you guys worry. But yeah, this was really hard because all my guys are really weak at this point. Only Darius can really do any substantial tanking. So I had to be really careful about how I position my guys on turn 1. There's still a slight chance of death, even with this strategy. If Sawyer gets hit by this fighter here, and he gets hit by the archer and the mage, he will die. But they have about a 40 to 50% chance to hit him, so most of the time it went alright. He just needs to dodge one of the attacks and he'll be fine. The rest of my guys here have no chance of death because I've lined them up in such a way that they won't take multiple attacks on enemy face, so they're usually alright. Now this archer knocks down the snag and it looks super intimidating, but the cavaliers behind him actually are stationary, so it's sort of like a feint attack. It really freaked me out the first time I played this map, but when I replayed it I was like, well, I don't actually need to do anything right here. Now I just got myself a vulnerary stolen. This looks like a mistake, but it's actually intended to bait the thief over to me. That thief has a Valhari icon, that's a goddess icon, and goddess icons in Staff of Ages gives 4 luck instead of the usual 2. And I want to get my hands on as many stat boosters as I can. This one in particular is going to be very important for next chapter. So I lured the thief in by offering him a vulnerary. I think it's even a vulnerary with 1 use left on him. So it's not particularly important. But it allows Marquess to steal it so that I can give it to another unit later. Now, as you can see right here, I've optimized this turn pretty effectively. I can't deal with all the enemies. The thief will also be left alive. Marquess and the thief will have a little bit of like a stealing sparring match where they'll just steal items back and forth from each other because I lack the damage to kill all the enemies plus this thief. I'll need a lucky crit or something to pull that off, and I didn't get any lucky crits, so... But I will be slowly doing damage to the thief. Of course, he has a vulnerary on him, so if I damage him, he's just going to heal himself up. But, you know, it's a little bit of experience for me. Never a bad thing, right? You get about 10 experience to chip the thief. Now, here comes a very important part. Positioning is really key here. The first thing I do is I trade the iron longbow over to Stark, and then I pick up Charles and place Belle in such a way that she can't get hit by the longbow archer over on the cliff. Now, you may have noticed there is an archer there. He is intended very much to prevent Belle from going there and dropping units off on the northern cliff, because of course the boss Regina, which we haven't talked about yet, we'll talk about her when she becomes relevant, she's not that far away from our initial starting position. And in order to prevent us from going to her right away, I think the creators of this map placed a longbow archer that will shoot down Belle, but since I am now in possession of a longbow myself, I can retaliate back at him, and it just so happens to be that Stark 2-shots him. So this is why I needed the longbow. There are other ways to kill him. You can like lure him in and try to like rig a crit with Belle or something, If you have a trained Bell at this point, you might be able to do it. But my Bell is, of course, not trained because none of my units are, so I wasn't really able to do anything about that. Now, I have to deal with 2 Pegasus Knights, and they're also backed up by an archer. The Cavalier you see up in the northwestern corner, he has a Horse Slayer. You can see he lights up there when I select the Eagle. This guy prevents you from just riding down with Una and slaying all the guys down there, so that Sawyer and Owen's group can advance, because that Horse Slayer guy, he will reliably kill Una even if you place her in a forest. I tried to, like, you know, make it so that she wouldn't get killed by him, but it's too risky. And again, I don't want my strategies to be reliant on, like, lucky misses and dodges. I want them to be in such a way that even if I fuck up and I miss, which you'll see happen a lot on this map, by the way, I'll still be able to deal with them somehow. Owen, for example, just missed the Belial there against the Pegasus Knights, so I'm gonna have to place Arura in his range to lure him away, which is really annoying. I even tried to kill him with Elijah, but you see I don't have the damage to do it properly. I check here if I speed buff Elijah with 3 points, will he be able to double the Pegasus Knight? But nah, these are not Hector hard mode Pegasus Knights. They're actually fast, so that really won't do. And again, I'm forced to leave the thief alive. So I'm checking the Horse Slayer guy. I'm wondering here if I should try to, like, move Una down to assist the group, but I decide not to. Instead, I place Grace within range of the 2 Cavaliers to pull them in. One of them has a halberd, and I really want that halberd because he drops it. The Axe Knight that you see to the left there has it, and there's a lot of things to get on this map actually, which is why I'm sort of taking my time with it. You'll see in a very short while. Now, I'm dropping Charles off here. The reason why Bell can't deal with that fighter right there is because he has a Sword Slayer, and he will actually one-shot Bell, regardless of what you do. He has like 100 hit against her, so that's why I need Charles to deal with that guy. It's not like Charles doing a lot of other important stuff anyway, and he can't really contribute to the west either, because there's a Horse Slayer Cavalier and a Halberd Cavalier, both of them one-shot him, so I figured he would be useful in dealing against that guy, but he needs a Steel Axe to two-hit KO him. So that's why I had to buy the Steel Axe from the armory. So with the combined might of the Steel Axe and the Iron Axe, I can kill the guy. And that gives me just the power I need to kill him. Meanwhile down here, Sawyer's and Owen's posse are sort of busy fighting the enemies that are coming their way, whilst Grace pulls one of the guys there. I was a little bit shocked because that Pegasus Knight you saw fly towards Grace there, normally he goes south, but for some reason he went east. So I'm like, oh shit, I gotta have to deal with that Pegasus Knight for some reason, and that actually ends up being very scary. Now, in here comes a green unit, Lily. She's a Pegasus Knight. She's notoriously very hard to recruit. You need to talk to her with Grace or Stark. But she has a habit of flying over to the boss and get herself killed, so you'll see me struggle with that a little bit later on. Now, I'm gonna get notoriously unlucky right here. I see that I have to use the Armor Slayer to do enough damage, and I miss an 86. I'm pretty sure I had to restart at this point, because I'm like, I have no vulneraries, or she can't use a vulnerary, and there's a Pegasus Knight and a Halberd guy in range, but I figure out a solution in a minute. Now again, it looks like there's not that many enemies down here, but either of these enemies can kill any one of my guys, because there's a Thunder Mage, there's a Shaman with Worm, and there's an Archer, and also a Soldier. So even Darius gets killed, Elijah gets killed, so it's very difficult for me to lure them in such a way that my units survive. I had so many restarts. I also tried to kill this thief right here, and I am failing spectacularly. I got so pissed right here. I'm like, okay, let's try to hit him with a javelin. Like, fuck. So that really ended up pissing me off. Initially I wanted that guy dead at this point. So I decided to take a big chance here. I put Elijah in the forest, I equip him with a hand axe, and I pick a god and pray. He needs to dodge either one of the mages or one mage and one archer, if he is to survive that enemy phase. And he has about, I think, like a 40% chance of death or something along those lines. Now, here I decide, wow, I can just put Belle in front of Grace, and that'll shield her from the Halberd guy. Because, of course, the Halberd guy, he won't hit Belle. The Halberd is super inaccurate, and he has to add a weapon triangle disadvantage. So, I figure out a way to get myself out of that reset. And I was very grateful for that, because so far, everything has been going really well this run. Trust me, there's a lot of things that can go horrendously wrong in this run. But I get the Halberd, that's great. That Halberd will come in handy, to say the least. When you're doing a 0% growth run, you want to get as many effective weapons as you possibly can, because it's not like you can rely on your units to be good. Now, Elijah takes a hit from this archer, and this is where I was like, okay, shit, I'm dead. I'm going to have to dodge one of the mages, but I do. I dodged the Thunder Mage, and that made me very relieved. However, there is still the Cavalier, with the Horse Slayer. And he... Actually, no, never mind. That was actually a mistake. He doesn't come in quite yet. I misremembered that. It's gonna be a 21-minute long post-production commentary episode, guys. I'm gonna make some mistakes. So now I prepare to send Grace and Stark over to the west-hand flank. They're gonna be securing a very important item, which you'll see in a minute. Bell, on the other hand, is ready to drop Una north because all of the enemies have been cleared out here. This is a very... You gotta be very careful with your movement here. There's an archer there, he hits pretty hard. While that's going on, my southern group will do what they can to mop up the remaining enemies. The worst phase is over right now. I've dealt with all the most threatening aspects here. This is usually the part where things get a little bit easier, but you can still very easily die if you fuck up. You can see I'm thinking very heavily here how am I going to deal with all these enemies, because of course you got the two Myrmidons coming in from the west and the north. And I also missed a hit here, which made me really, really pissed off. Now, these Myrmidons are normally no big deal, but one of them has an Armor Slayer, so he's really good against Darius. And because all of my units are pretty slow at this point, my Myrmidons will pretty much double almost everyone in my squad, and they hit fairly hard as well. Luckily, I got Lily, the Green Pegasus Knight, and she actually does really decently against them. So I decided to just leave her to deal with them. Since it's a 0% growth run, I don't really care if a green unit steals a kill or two. We'll talk more about Lily when she becomes relevant. For now, she's just a Green Pegasus Knight. Now, I'm going to try my hardest here to give Elijah enough experience so that I can get him to level 10, but it's going to be a bit difficult because at this point most of the enemies are dead, and it's sort of just like slowly making your way over to the middle. The southern group right now will actually not be dealing with the boss. This goddamn thief is still alive, but I'm getting a lot of experience stealing his items. This group right now has 2 or 3 primary objectives. This is the southern group. First, they need to visit the shop to buy some equipments. There is also a bag of 500 gold that I want to steal. And there's also a droppable hammer that I want to get my hands on. As you can see, Lily deals with these guys pretty well. I think she would have survived even if she got hit by the first Myrmidon, but I'm not completely sure. Whereas the northern tree guys, they're the ones who are going to be dealing with the boss Regina. Regina is insanely tricky, and I'll talk more about her when we get to her. She proved to be quite a challenge, and dealing with her was never really going to be easy. I knew that from the start, but I had no idea just how slippery she would be to deal with. Now, at long lasts, it's time to finally kill off this thief that's been bugging me, but in hindsight, I stole like 3 or 4 items from him. Like, 3 of them are mine, obviously, but that's like 40 free experience from our quest, so I'm not really too sad about that, actually. Now, there are many enemies left to deal with. Ego can deal with this guy quite easily. This guy's killed Darius so many times, by the way. I tend to forget about him a lot. Now, to my knowledge, there aren't any reinforcements coming out from the forts, but I still wasn't really sure about that at this point, so I move up to block the forts, even though it's been shown repeatedly that blocking forts don't work in Stuff of Ages. They just come out on the side instead, but, you know, I figured might as well try just in case, you know? The less enemies I have to deal with, the better. Now, I heal up Charles here. Charles is not going to be the one to go up against the boss. He gets one-rounded by her, because she has an Hellfire Tome. But he is necessary to deal with the guards around her. Now, this is probably a good time to talk about Regina. So she's a Mage Knight. She has an Hellfire. She doubles Charles, but she does not double Una or Belle. Now, her personal skill is very nasty. She reduces the attack speed and avoid by all enemies within 3 squares of her. So that makes it really hard to go up against her unless you got some manner of speed. She also has a skill called Focus. And the Focus increases her crit rate when there are no allies within 3 spaces. This is why you only want to kill one of the armor knights surrounding her. If you kill both, you're going to give Regina crit. This has killed me in the past. 2 times, in fact. So you want to get rid of one of her bodyguards, and then you want to get Belle out of there. If you kill both, she's going to have like a 15% chance to crit you or something like that. It's going to be absolutely awful. So Belle can deal with Regina pretty effectively. She does about 20 damage to her or something like that. Una, it says that Una gets doubled, but she doesn't get doubled. I don't actually know why. I'll show you later. I'm not sure if there's any skills coming into play or if her personal skill works differently from what I thought, but it really, really weirded me out. So right now I'm just sending all my guys to the center. As I said, there is a bag of gold to steal from an armor knight. There's also a droppable hammer. Grace and Stark right here are gonna get that hammer from this guy. I pull him with Stark, of course, because I don't want to deal with him with my northern group because they're busy fighting the boss. I was a little bit annoyed. Lily just went north there, and I realized I'm gonna have to go and pick Grace up and transport her up north if I want to recruit her. So Stark gets the hammer. That's 2 effective weapons obtained in this map. I was pretty happy about that. But I realized now I need to go get Grace, or else Lily's gonna go suicide on the boss. She has done this before. And also something to keep in mind is Lily will not recruit herself at the end of this chapter. If you do not talk to her, she will not join. I reset it because of that. I had a really good run, and then I realized I didn't get Lily, so I had to replay the entire map, and that really pissed me off. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed right there, it was very brief, but you saw that on the battle screen, Una did get doubled by Regina. But you will see that once they start fighting, she actually won't get doubled, which really surprised me. Now, it's time for another shopping session. This is just stocking up on basic equipment, a steel sword, a steel lance, and a javelin, just, you know, to make sure that I got some equipment going into the next chapters. So it's time for Regina to attack, and as you can see, she does not double. I'm not sure why it says she's doubling, and then she suddenly doesn't double. I'm not sure if there's any skills coming into play, but I was really grateful nevertheless. Now, she doesn't have a chance to crit Una, but Una's hit chance against her is not good. Belle can deal 20 damage to her with her rapier, but she has roughly about a 50% chance to hit, so it's super unreliable. So I decided I just had to deal with Regina turn by turn, slowly. I can try to, like, YOLO it, but it took me so long to get to this point. You have no idea. I think this is like my 20th attempt at this map. You really don't get to see how challenging this map is on a 0% growth run unless you play it yourself, trying to make everything go smoothly. I was so nervous at this point, I didn't even want to chance this 2% crit right here. I was like, nope, 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 I refuse, I'm not gonna take the 2% crit. I absolutely refuse. Even here, I have to chance a 3% crit. I'm like, shit, I don't think there's any way for me to go up against this guy. So I end up having to chance it anyway, but like, my arms were literally shaking at this point. There's no way I could not do post-production commentary with this series, because I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I'm about to do it. One of those Pegasus Knights right there has a Horse Slayer. Had a couple of resets because of that guy. But as you can see right now, I am moving Marquez into range to steal that bag of 500 gold from the Armor Knight. I really want that. I'm sure it's going to come in handy sooner or later. So I go recruit Lily. That's kind of great. I send her down. Don't think there's anything I'm going to do with her aside from killing the Shaman. But Lily's a decent unit. As you can see again, you can see it says I'm going to get doubled, but I'm not, which is super weird. I have no idea. Also right here, I actually goof a little bit. There's no reason for me to use that Vulnerary. I could have just healed Belle. Una has Live to Serve, which allows her to heal herself by healing an ally. So that was kind of dumb. I don't really know why I did that. But you can see I'm really paranoid at this point. I'm checking enemy ranges. I'm super careful. I can't really play super fast anymore, because at this point, there's so few tries where I managed to get this far without screwing anything up. So I'm just playing it super safe. I don't take any risks whatsoever. I use Darius to tank the Pegasus Knights. I think he's going to hit level 10 now, and he's going to pick up a skill. That skill is called Natural Cover. If you've played the 3DS games or the DS games, you know this skill. Whenever Darius stands on terrain, he takes 3 less damage. So it just makes him super good if you place him in a forest or in a fort. His defense that is already high is going to go up by 3 more. I think this also works against magical attacks, because I think it's just damage taken -3. So if you place him on a fort, he's going to take less damage against mages. You can see how incredibly careful I am right here. And this is also a good demonstration of Live to Serve. It's a really good skill. It allows Una to self-heal by healing her allies. Really versatile. Now I realize here that Darius has a lot of shit on him. As you can see, I got stat boosters aplenty. Still haven't used them yet. I got some plans for them in the next chapter, don't you worry. But I get the 500 gold. I was super happy about that as well. I think I've actually gotten everything that I wanted to get on the map. I've gotten the halberd, I've gotten the hammer, I've gotten the 500 gold. I bought and sold all the items I need. But I still need to visit the shop to the west, because there's a couple more items that I need. And you'll see why in the next chapter. So right now, I'm still playing it super safe. I'm just letting Regina heal herself and attack Una on enemy face. Eventually, I can run in with Belle if I want to. But I'm playing it safe for now, because as you can see, my accuracy against Regina is so bad. And Una's the only one who can really go up against her. I can only attack her from one spot too, because Regina plus Armor Knight will kill anyone in my squad, and I can't kill the Armor Knight because if I do, I will give Regina 10% crit, and that is just not something I'm willing to let happen because that has screwed me over in the past. Now things are actually starting to get a little bit scary right here. I'm placing Owen in range of a lot of Pegasus Knights, and I think some of them even double him because he's pretty slow at this point. So at this point I'm getting a little bit paranoid. There's a Shaman that can attack me, so I actually end up rescuing him and healing with Aurora, but Aurora's low in health as well. So at this point I am panicking big time, and I realize that, okay, at this point I actually just need to kill Regina. Because at this point there are units that can get killed. Elijah will be doubled by the Pegasus Knights, and he is not super tanky despite being at a weapon triangle advantage. But first I really need to visit this shop. I need the Worm Tome for Owen. It's like a stronger version of Flux. And I need a lot of Light Magic Tomes, and as well as a Thunder Tome. And I think I end up buying another Shine Tome as well. No, another Lumen Tome. No, another Shine Tome. So I actually expend all of my cash, but you'll see in the next chapter why I need so much light magic. It's gonna become very obvious very soon. Now, as you can see right here, Belle has a 64% chance to hit Regina, and she manages to hit. And at this point, I'm like, okay, fuck it, let's go. I'm checking if Grace can kill, but of course she can't. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, let's chance it. Let's fucking go. And I managed to land a hit, and holy crap, you guys have no idea how fucking relieved I was to finally beating this chapter. Took me an entire day, probably 20 tries. The biggest challenge I've ever done in any Fire Emblem game, by far. This was so fucking fun. Oh my god, guys, I can't believe I did that entire thing in one run. Anyway, like and comment, see you guys next time, bye bye.